I actually had no ideas of ever making a black and white film before, but when given the story and opportunity to do one, I jumped at it.
You know, I wasn't really that interested in directing it until we actually sat down together and he was telling me what he wanted to do, how he wanted it to look, and I you know, said, oh, why don't I, you know, take this on and direct it myself.
I got involved with this project after reading the synopsis of what it was.
When I read it, I was really intrigued. I thought it sounded really interesting and something that I'd really like to be a part of.
At that point, I was reading lots of scripts on lots of features and short films. And this one shined through the most because it was written in a different way. It was written with soul, and the story itself was very compelling.
I think it's different from what people around us are doing. People are generally really interested to see what we can do with it, you know, and it's a different style from what people normally watch.
I was always looking to a way to help the director and cinematographer. I tried to give them as much as possible with the location and times that we had.
The wife is a very interesting character. She's very manipulative and crafty. I'd say she's a very strong character, and that's what I really like about her. I really respect the fact that she's such a strong individual, doesn't take being mistreated by men lightly.
The way I feel the husband is, I think, relates to every one of us men in a relationship.
Everybody can be manipulative and sly even. It depends on where they feel or what they are within themselves.
Sometimes, even in the best relationship, we feel that we are going mad. What I like about the husband is that he's putting that idea and stretching it to the very limit.
I'd like to say I have the strength of the wife's character in respect of the fact that she's manipulative and calculated. No, I don't think she's anything like me.
Now, no one suffering through temptation should say, I am being tempted by God. For God is not subject to temptations of evil.
I was raised in quite a strict Catholic community. My parents divorced and the whole sort of community sort of turned. I was removed from school and everything, and it was quite an early exposure to how strict that society can be. I felt that Sven is one of those characters, very strict, you know, follows the principles of Catholicism and the Bible to the letter and is not very tolerant, which I think makes his adultery even more sinful and hypocritical.
What's going on here? Marshall's inclusion in the plot is very small. He needed to be played as an innocent completely. He's simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I didn't know Carl before. We went from not knowing each other to living a very intense moment.
It's a lovely opportunity to like get to know another actor. We had some lovely conversations about different films and things like that. We're both film buffs.
There is a way out. For her. And not for you.
Since he's a rough, tough person, I wanted to experiment with my voice and alter it in a way that sounded, you know, rough, like that. And I really enjoyed that part. It was very playful as well.
I watched quite a few noir films, particularly Double Indemnity, the one with Barbara Stanwyck in.
1161, wife.
And action.
Marshall.
The best memories of working with Victoria were one, getting into character together. I remember just looking at her and she was getting into character just with her glance, and I was perceiving that it was easy for me to get into character that way.
When we were filming the actual board game scenes, we were messing around rather than putting the right words that we were supposed to be spelling on the board. We were quite often putting rude words or silly words, and that was quite fun.
Nicholson.
Evening, how are you?
Staying occupied?
You're a ladies' man, aren't you, Nicholson?
Well, I used to work in a nightclub as a bartender, so I just had to recall those memories, and it felt natural. When I was going to shoot, I was just thinking, okay, I'm going for another shift.
One of my favorite moments with Cristinel was the fact that I was very careful because of the angle, the way I was holding the shotgun. I was so concerned that I would hit him that I was going way too far from him, and I think the camera was not having it, so I needed to go closer. And Cristinel said, "Just hit me."
His intensity was remarkable, and I liked it. And also It was quite touching that he was very concerned about hitting me with the gun. We didn't want that to happen for real.
He was giving me the best of the performances, and very grateful I am, because that was just for me, because I was the only person who will ever see his face there, and it was priceless.
The cinematography for Bored to Death really has a character of its own. I tried to paint the light in brushstrokes, as the story was about characters concealing things from each other. It's a play with light and shadow, and I wasn't afraid to cover things to make each shot look like there was something lurking in the darkness. Shots themselves are very conservative. I wanted to keep that 1940s noir style. Stationary shots with basic movements such as panning, tilting, and the occasional tracking shot. Using these minimalistic techniques, I came up with quite interesting compositions where in several occasions I covered all the main actors' performances within one shot. Throughout the film, there is this strong backlight on each character, usually to hint the audience on who to pay attention to, as they may be revealing important information. I also wanted to give the film a very theatrical look, very much like a spotlight in the theatre to dramatize the actions of the characters.
Sonically, I mean, most of the work was there. I mean, I think what mainly needs to be worked on was just fitting the dynamics in with the pacing of the film, and using the music to kind of progress the narrative in a more stronger kind of way.
Rika Muranaka's contribution to the score really brought out the mystery of the narrative. We looked at her previous works on Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill and thought the style that she brought to those pieces perfectly matched Bored to Death.
The darkness is very prevalent in the work, and I think something about my work resonates with kind of the style of the film as well.
The score is quite creepy, like the characters themselves, and we went on several occasions back and forth from the studio to perfect the music. We said to Rika that she could be very experimental, and I think she did an absolutely amazing job in giving Bored to Death the atmospheric score that it truly needed.
The 1940s film, especially Hitchcock films, most of his posters weren't the real actors. I wanted something like that because, you know, when you look at like the poster for Vertigo, there's something about it that kind of attracts you to it. Max Richardson, I've seen a lot of his artwork, you know, that he posters up, and I really like it. It's really unusual stuff that he does. And I think he really captures the whole feeling of the film.
A movie poster, it's kind of like a package of the whole film. The first thing that I envisioned was a man being protective, a man with like a gun in his hand saying he's going to keep his girl safe, and if anyone tries to touch her, he's going to come down on them with quite harsh revenge. I thought that from seeing that one image in itself, you would sort of gather the main story of the film.
Andy Sam was the poster designer, and he worked on the little details and everything. And I remember discussing with him on the things to add to make it a lot more fitting with the film, like the, you know, the chest kind of like pieces on the back, and, you know, the little details with the smoke.
Seeing Andine's work, I think his work is absolutely incredible. The process of actually painting the board itself, it took me about 3 weeks. It was a real sort of struggle to get the squares completely how I wanted them to.
You know, the way both of them actually really created that was actually pretty incredible, and Andy and Sam did a really great job on the poster.
The house scene, the first scene that we shot, was a very, very difficult scene. I think more on the side that we were up very late. The shoot was very time-consuming, getting it perfect, and I think by the end of it we were all extremely tired.
Yeah, we were very supportive. If things needed to be done and it wasn't in your department, it doesn't matter. We need your help and you have to do it.
When they invited me to come to see in the screen what we just filmed with Victoria, just to get into the idea better, and you know, that sort of feedback session, I thought, wow, it's just tremendous. These guys has an immense future in front of them.
When I was showing the pre-screen, I was quite blown away by the sheer quality of the film. Aesthetically and sonically is quite deep.
The fact that we are all in our own right artists, no matter what it's doing, whether we're working on set, whether we're working on the lighting, we are all creating one big work of art, and because we're a group of great minds, we're sort of coming together, sort of creating this fusion of general creativity, and that's exactly what's required to make a big masterpiece of a film.
I would love to work with Broken Lens again in the future. I think it's one of the most professional crews I've worked with, actually.
The whole crew makes you feel relaxed.
The crew was definitely top-notch, completely professional.
Impeccable. That's it.
They really know what they're doing. They know which angle they want. They know specifically what they're looking for. They're not afraid to keep going until they get what it is that they have in their mind.
Not just all these, the most important thing is that they are really, really talented. The music and the sound, the cinematography, the acting and the directing, putting everything together to create the most artistic short film to express that side, and it does it effectively.
It's an exciting, dark thriller.
Gritty, atmospheric.
A masterpiece.
Quite scary in parts, actually.
It's very psychological and definitely worthwhile watching.
I strongly suggest that you forfeit yourself to the authorities.
Here is my forfeit. Wife, liar, killer.
You're looking at Facebook while you're asking me questions.